What goes through your mind when you're on a trail? I mean, besides how much fun you're having. Did you ever wonder about the people who built it? The truth is that most of us take trails for granted. But after making mountain bike films for over 20 years, we've learned that pretty much every trail has a story.
Yeah, Squamish, BC's really taken shape as far as the cycling world. I call it basically the hub of mountain biking for British Columbia right now. But for a long time, there's a lot of hidden gems in Squamish, and I don't think people ever thought about it as like this place to go build mountain bike trails.
Our hometown wouldn't have become a true mountain bike destination without the hard work of a few dedicated locals who started building trails for themselves and ended up laying the foundations for an entire community. Locals like legendary trail builder Big Red Ted Tempany.
My name's Ted Tempany. I'm a local trail builder here in Squamish, British Columbia.
No one moves dirt quite like Ted. He's both a master of heavy machinery and an artist with a shovel. He built jumps and features for some of the biggest moments in mountain biking, many of which were captured in the early stages of action sports film.
One of my first memories with Ted was road tripping in his van down to Utah. We went to Moab. That was a lot of fun. That was exploring in the truest sense in the early days of mountain biking.
And as time went on, we started to realize we could manipulate the terrain a little bit with tools and make it even better. We were breaking bikes and smashing our helmets and having a great old time in the desert. Nobody knew what we were doing, and we didn't care. All the guys that we'd been traveling on all these trips slowly became these super pro dudes, and I was never the top dog.
Ted would build trails to ride them and for his buddies to ride, and eventually the trail building side took over. He got hired to build Monster Park and a couple of these big slopestyle events that were just really starting to become a thing, and that put him on the radar, I think.
We were basically using the contests and these film shoots to kind of experiment.
Kind of clicked his brain thinking, oh yeah, I can make a living at this. And then he just carried on from there.
I think I started to lose interest in building slopestyle courses when I realized that I was just building, the same jump over and over again on a different hill, right? And I started to lose interest there.
Ted had seemingly exhausted his creative energy on competition-level features and was ready for something else. Something that would have more long-term value, both for riders on the trail and for Ted himself. Those grassroots efforts would soon have an impact on both his local community and the ever-evolving world of action sports film.
Yeah, with Strength in Numbers, we had this idea to do a segment within Squamish. It was my new hometown at the time, and no one was really going and building machine and very developed trails in Squamish without permission. So with that, we talked to Ted, and Ted kind of gave us this opportunity where he had already flagged something. So it just gave us an opportunity, and then me especially as an athlete, just to go into the woods and do something a little more creative, and it was cool to be able to do that in my backyard.
The Full Nelson project was one of the cooler building opportunities that we had, because when you build stuff for films, sometimes it needs to get torn down afterwards, and there isn't really a leave behind or a long-term legacy.
Yeah, the great part of that Strength in Numbers segment was we built this trail. We were able to build something that was core enough to, be in a mountain bike film and progress enough to fulfill me as an athlete, but pretty cool to be able to do this segment and then leave something behind for Squamish, especially with community growing. There needed to be more trails. So yeah, it was just sweet to leave something behind. There's a pretty unique transition for Ted's trail building, where he was basically at one point a trail pirate doing all these illegal trails, and then progressed into now, building sustainable trails for the mountain bike community.
Most mountain bikers don't realize just how much work it is to build sanctioned trails. Moving dirt is one thing, but applying for land use permits and getting a trail project funded is a different beast altogether. But Ted wasn't intimidated. His proposal for the Half Nelson Trail was the first of its kind to secure funding from the provincial government. And it's now a case study used by mountain bike lobby groups all over Canada.
Like, I think Half Nelson played like a really big part in the mountain bike community growing here, because there was a lot of mountain bike trails, but everything was pretty old school. Whereas Half Nelson brought this like newer school style trail. It was machine built, it was flowier, something that you'd maybe see in the Whistler Bike Park, but now we have it in Squamish.
When people come to Squamish and say, you know, they wish they had this wherever they came from, I always tell them the same thing. I was like, Squamish wasn't always a mountain bike mecca. It's a mountain bike mecca because we made it a mountain bike mecca. You just have to put in the time.